Hello and welcome to Saints. We're grateful you could join in online today. We've prayed you'd be inspired in your journey of faith in a fresh way. Whether you're looking for a church or just curious about Jesus, our vision as a church is to equip the saints to be centered in Christ, devoted to people, and driven by love. So we'd love the chance to get to know you and help introduce you to opportunities here wherever you are on your journey with God. Consider coming to an in-person service next Sunday, where we have a kids program for 2 to 13-year-olds too. Doors open 10:30 a.m. for coffee and light bites, so come visit us in person. Follow our socials and stay connected with us so you never miss a thing. For now, enjoy this message from our team.
Awesome. Well, we've been going through the book of Mark. We're on month 8 and we're at chapter 7. So I'm going to tell you now, we might not get to the end, but we're looking at this idea of being a disciple of Jesus Christ. So that's not just knowing him, but that's becoming more and more like him. And the overflow of becoming like Jesus is that you just can't help but be generous and pour out and spill out the stories of his faithfulness and his goodness. You can't help but believe for more because you've seen a glimpse and you just know that he doesn't run out. And so the power of being a disciple is that your friends and your family, the people around you, start to notice, and it can bring transformation to their lives too. And so I'm excited for how this is turning out so far this year and the impact that it's made. But let's stay open, shall we? We've got even more to learn, even more to grasp. And so I'm excited. I am going to speak from Mark chapter 7. So if you've got your Bibles, you can head there to verse 24. And I'm going to try and say this word right the whole way through my preach, but I might stuff it up because when I first read it, schizophrenic came to mind. So it's Syrophoenician. Can you say that? Syrophoenician. If I keep saying it, I'll get it right. Let's read this story together, shall we? Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. So this is just kind of above Israel. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know yet. I'm guessing he's a bit tired. He's been dishing out miracles. He's been teaching. He's been walking a lot. And so he goes to this house. Didn't want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek born in Syrian Phoenicia, and she begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Lord, she replied, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. She went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon had gone. Such a weird little story. I've never heard anyone preach on it. Any of you guys? No. Well, we'll see what happens today. But this just caught my attention. As I was reading it, I was like, there's got to be some gold in there. Why are we talking about dogs? There's so many people here who have dogs. It seems like a recent trend is to get a dog. Just going to remind you all, it's not just for Christmas. I'm not listening, Joel. Not listening. If you need a dog sitter, I'm happy to do that on a short-term basis. It's my limit. Anyway, there's some dog lovers, so I'm hoping you're not going to get irritated by what I have to say in a minute, but we'll go with it. So verse 26, we've got this Greek woman from Tyre. So she's not from Greece. This is a woman who, or in Tyre, it's known as a pretty sinful city, and they worship the Greek gods. And so she's not a Jew, she's not from Israel, where Jesus' ministry so far in the early days of it has been kind of based in that zone. He's for the Jews and he's in Israel, and he's kind of just been in a pretty tight bit. But for some reason, he's gone across the border, and he's just in this vicinity just above Israel. And so the Greeks, if you don't know, they're I'm going to get these words wrong too, but polytheistic. And that means basically they don't have one God, they have multiples. So I thought I'd just do a little search on what the Greek gods were, because we all know the famous ones. But do you know there was a god of, or probably still, maybe someone still worships him, but there was a god of poetry, war, thunder, sky, crafts, music, family, marriage, fire, beauty, thieves and travelers. Strange. Wine. Who's on for that one? Basically, I read the list. I was like, basically anything that was discovered in the world by that point in time, they basically had a god for. So maybe today there would be a god of technology, maybe a god of space, a god of ChatGPT. I don't know. Anyway, but these guys from this area, they were known as far from God. They were reveling in their sin. They just went all out for pleasures and for whatever they kind of fancied. And we don't know exactly this lady's background and this story, but she's come on her own, and she has a daughter. So who knows what her story has been. But the word has got out, obviously, about Jesus, like Chinese whispers, I'm guessing. Like, it's just like, it's shocking what he's doing. Like, the blind are seeing, the lame are walking, people with leprosy are getting healed. He's turning water into wine. He turns like tiny morsels of food into like a colossal volume of food, and he's just kind of going everywhere. He's changing people's lives. And so word has got out. She must have heard about him somehow, and she has a demon-possessed child. She has this child that's just got this evil spirit on her, and so she's desperate, I'm guessing. And though he comes unannounced, hoping for some downtime, she hears about him and she comes. And this little daughter, I have an 8-year-old son, and if he was possessed by a demon, I would be on to finding solutions. Like, if I didn't know God, I would be like, this has to change. I would imagine it's verging on unmanageable. It would just be scary. It would be tiring. It would be all-consuming. It might be embarrassing. I might feel shame, maybe. I don't know. There would be so many things. And I've got to assume that in the culture that she was in, she must have prayed to any god who was vaguely relevant. Like, in this Greek set of options, she must have been just hoping that something could happen. Maybe she was turning to witch doctors and potions. Maybe she was like just getting superstitious about everything she did. Maybe she's looking back at her own life like, maybe I caused this. Maybe this is my fault. I have no idea what was going through her head, but I know as a mum, I'd be freaking out, and this would be urgent priority 1, is get this child back to a sound mind. This is not a scenario where she as a mum would be sat with the other mums talking about how cute her daughter is and this fun little thing she did the other day. In fact, she probably maybe would stay away from those conversations that mums honestly usually revel in. She'd be feeling just ostracized. Maybe she wouldn't have even been invited even to family gatherings, because she's got this difficult child who could kick off at any time, and who knows what is going to happen. And so this is isolating for her. She's not even interacting maybe with her neighbors, because this kid could go crazy at any time. This has to be tiring, and this has to be urgent. And I just pause here for a second just to ask you to consider, I'm not suggesting that you're all sat here demon-possessed, but let's pause for a second and consider the areas of our life that we're hiding away. We don't let our friends know about. We haven't told our mum and dad. Our neighbors oblivious. Maybe even your spouse or your siblings, your colleagues, your boss. There's just areas of your life that you feel embarrassment about. Areas of your life where you feel like, if my peers knew, rejection is guaranteed. Or perhaps some stuff has surfaced and it's already resulted in some rejection. Things have made you feel unworthy, too naughty, inferior. And maybe these reasons evidence sin, perhaps. Maybe it's poor discipline. Maybe there's unhealthy habits or dependencies, and they've led you to believe this lie that you can't approach God. It's made you timid about approaching God. It's on your mind. It's weighing heavy. You feel responsible in some way. You've been polytheistic too, holding on to other options, other other plans, other things that perhaps might just get you through. They might sneak you past. You might be able to avoid talking to God about this if you kind of slide this way and try this out. But they don't look like a Greek god, but you are banking on them superstitiously or not willing even to turn from them because of family pressure, even worse because of comfort. But there's some things in your life and they're isolating you. I want you to consider today being a little bit more like this Syrophoenician woman, putting all your eggs in one basket, like Asher, going out of your way, out of the norm to find Jesus, to ask Jesus. Back to the story, she goes to Jesus, she falls at his feet and she begs him to free her daughter. This, like I said, this isn't just about the daughter having peace and a sound mind and a freed body. This is also about the cause of exhaustion and isolation and the uncertain future being removed from their family scenario. And these are big tickets for her as a mother. And graciously, he doesn't say no, and he doesn't ignore her, but he does go a little bit cryptic. So let's look at the story. At first, it sounds like he's saying, sure, but how about we finish dinner first? And then we'll get around to it. Verse 27 says, first, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Now, actually, that's not the scenario at all. We have no idea. The daughter is seemingly, by later in the passage, we discover she's at home. She's not there. She's not eating. Jesus can't see her eating. This is actually him kind of talking in a cryptic, metaphorical sense. And so bread in the Bible actually refers to sustenance, provision, and life, and specifically God's provision for his people. And it signifies both physical nourishment, but also spiritual life. In fact, Jesus in the Bible refers to himself as the bread of life. And so that's what this bread is referring to. And the children in this scenario are the Jews. And so Jesus, like I said, is early on in his ministry and he's there to teach the Jews. He wasn't randomly stabbing in the dark with who he taught the gospel to at this stage. This is early on and he's unpacking the scriptures and he's come at a time where he needs to turn them from the religiosity of the Old Testament, just their traditions and their ritualistic practice of faith. He's having to turn them towards this new season that's about to begin where they'll be able to have relationship with Jesus Christ, where they can know him personally for themselves. And so rather than just like scattering that far and wide, he's pretty strategic about how he's going to turn the whole world upside down. And so he starts with the Jews in Israel. So that's kind of like his target market. This is the niche that he has chosen. And this lady is above the border. She's from Tyre. She's from a place ridden with sin, where it would kind of be like a drop in the ocean. But he's concentrating first on the Jews. And so she comes to him outside of his remit, outside of where he's trying to reach. And she's asking boldly for him to perform a miracle. And so understanding that God's power could work through the Jews and that they could take this out further, it's not that he was saying, no, I don't care about you. It's not that he was saying, no, I can't. It's that he was saying, like, my focus is on here. And once I've established this, then I'll send everybody out and this thing will spread. And so he's like, not yet. And so what's with the dog reference? I hear you all say. Is Jesus referring to her as a dog? Has anybody ever called their brother, sister, I don't know, someone a dog? Is not a very nice thing to do. And maybe it's evolved a little bit from this time. But the priests actually in Israel, again, this sounds very harsh, but the priests in Israel would refer to these people in these sinful cities as dogs. Ouch, how are you if Joel and I call your friend that you bring to church a dog? I'm going to assume that there will be an email or some eggs or some abuse or something. You wouldn't be up for us calling your friends who haven't found God yet a dog. But in this time, the priests in Israel, because of where she was from, she would have been considered sinful, and they were worshiping other gods. And these whole cities were just going with their feelings, whatever they wanted to do, whatever they fancied, whatever they were into, they could just go ahead and do it. And they would go with their sinful urges and their desires. And they weren't even trying to be good. They're just like wandering the streets, scavenging for what they could get. They were self-reliant. They were just like actual dogs. And so he's saying, I'm here to feed the Jews, and when they've had their fill, I'll get around to you. So don't interrupt my plans or my focus. That's effectively what he's saying. There's a time when the power of God will reach your people, but for now, it's the Jews' turn. That's kind of how Jesus is seeing this. Now, this is just really cool in the Bible. She claps back. And almost, it sounds sassy to me. Lord, she replied, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Now, if you're the fly on the wall, the room just got spicy. Like, eesh. She claps back. And Jesus actually hears this sentence and picks up on this faith. Picks up on a humility. She's not arguing the fact that, yes, I come from Tyre. Yes, there's sin in my life. Yes, I understand the reputation. I understand I'm not a Jew. I've not devoted my life to scriptures and godly practice and whatever. But she's like, but even the dogs get the crumbs from under the table. So humbly she comes, not trying to put up a facade that she's holier than thou and she's deserving. She's acknowledging what position she's coming from, but she humbly asks that even a crumb, even just a little bit of God's power could change her situation. And God hears this, Jesus hears this, and he tells her, for such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. It's like instant. So like a minute ago, Jesus is saying like, hold on, it's not your turn yet. I'll get to you guys. We'll get to you guys. Like there's a plan in place for everybody to have access. Like just chill. But like seconds later, she's asking for the crumbs. She's just asking for a little. She's showing a humility, and she has an expectation. She has faith that even if I had a little, my scenario could change. And through this encounter with this Syrophoenician woman, Jesus actually moves from being exclusively for the Jews and operating in that zone, and he crosses the border and goes through to the Gentiles. This is a significant moment in his ministry. She didn't contest that she's a sinner. We're all sinners. We're human. And we have that nature within us. And we all stuff up. If you're new to Christianity and you've stuffed up and you're like, why am I still doing this thing? I thought once I was a Christian, then that would be done. No, you're still human. You just have the grace of God now. And you have the gift of the Holy Spirit that would convict you and prompt you, where maybe you wouldn't have even noticed. You just happily got on. But now the Holy Spirit stirs you towards right from wrong. And so this is her reality. And I encourage you that the deep faith that she had is similar to the faith that the woman had. If I just touch his garment, I'll be healed. You know, people were getting healed in shadows. People were getting healed and raised from the dead just at a word or being in the presence of God or his disciples. And she had this conviction, if I can just ask for a little, it'll be enough for me. Maybe today you're thinking, I need to stay in church a few more months and clock up some good deeds before I can ask Jesus to save me. You look at your situation and feel like, I'm like the people from Tyre, like I'm not worthy of being forgiven. You feel the heaviness, the shame. You feel like I'm going to have to wait until I'm in a better position to go and approach God and even ask him for a little bit. Maybe you've been promiscuous. Maybe you've cheated others. Maybe you've neglected your faith. Maybe you've done whatever you felt like for so long. Maybe you've been greedy or unfaithful. Maybe you've been stingy. Maybe you've lied your way into the mess that you found yourself in, and you just feel that responsibility. Well, I want to encourage you. Matthew 7 verses 7-8 says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Can we just sigh a big sigh of relief? Come on, let it fall off you. That hindrance that you have felt with God has no rightful place to remain there. This is for you to dismantle right now by a choice. That just understanding, like it's not God that is saying you can't approach him. It's your own figuring out. It's your own maths. It's worse than girl math. It's not reality. This is something that is for every one of us. This is a promise from God in Matthew 7. If you ask, if you seek, if you knock, he will respond. And he's so gracious that he'll do it kindly. He'll be attentive to your faith, to your humility, and it can change it. It seems like she's changed Jesus's mind by her faith and humility. And you can discuss this later over lunch, the theological idea of changing God's mind, or did he know she'd say it, and blah, blah, blah. You can go and do that over lunch. But he hadn't said no to casting out the demon. He said, let the kids eat first. Let me continue with my mission. Let me continue with my agenda. But her faith and humility convinced him to do it right there and then. For such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. Imagine going home and you find your child at rest on the bed, at peace, not tormented anymore, not afflicted, not physically tight up and hunched over, and who else knows whatever it was. She finds her at rest in her bed. The woman didn't take his reply to her request. She maintained her posture before Jesus and persisted in faith. If you take a note today, I call this the power of persistence. I think so often we give up a little bit too quick. Some of us aren't even asking, but some of us have asked once, like a quick, quiet little ask. And then we felt like it's a no, which might have been a not yet, but we didn't hang around long enough to find out. And we've just left it as is. And it's compounded that feeling of I'm not worthy. I'm too naughty. I'm too far from God. My reputation has made its bed. I'm just going to have to lie in it. Well, that's not the case. This woman persisted, and she brought her humility and her faith before God. How many of us would have stayed in that conversation? Have you prayed and sensed God wasn't answering that prayer and simply moved on? Is it that he won't help us until he sees our faith in action? Or is it that we can twist his arm? I don't know. That's what you can chat about at lunch. But faith moves mountains. Matthew 17, verse 20. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. She had confidence in her spirit. If God would just a little bit of power, if he could just say it, it would be. She had that conviction in her heart, and she held on to that instead of what it looked like. And sometimes God is going to make you wait. Not because he's mean, because there's something else he needs to do in your heart first. There's something else that he's up to in his grand plan. But you can hold on to your faith and your conviction. It's the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not yet seen. Our prayers are the utterances of our hopes in God, the one who holds the whole world in his hand. And Hebrew 11 verse 6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. We want to please God with our lives. He wants us to turn around. He doesn't want us to stay distant and far away and in our sin or even in our shame and our condemnation. He wants us to draw near to him, and he wants us to grow in faith. And who knows, every time you see God move in your life, your faith gets stronger and you're encouraged to move again on it. So faith is the prerequisite of God answering our prayers. This woman humbled herself, admitting that she isn't like the Jews, and that she doesn't have their understanding or even their devotion to God, but she shows that she still believes in God and she's willing to trust him. It wasn't about worthiness. None of us are worthy, but faith in God by his grace gives us access to him and his power. those who call on my name will be saved. Not when they have their life in order. Not when you have your life in order. It's when you call on his name in faith. So today, I want to challenge us. What are we holding back on because we feel unworthy? Maybe close your eyes for a second. What is it in your life? It's like a lie. It's just why you've concluded God isn't answering you. I used to come up with so many things in my mind. The reason I haven't found my husband yet is because I did ABC. It's because I didn't ABC. Why hasn't my business broken through yet like everyone else? I pray, I try, I work hard. Why? Like, I mustn't have given enough. I mustn't have ... You know what it is. What have you written yourself off from? Seasoned Christians, what's reduced your prayer life down to thanking God for food on the table and the occasional hello? Let's be inspired by this Syrophoenician woman and ask boldly again over what seems like a lost cause, over what seems embarrassing to talk about, over strongholds, over blessing. Let's ask boldly. Let's bring our faith humbly before the Lord. Why don't you stand in this place?
If you enjoyed this message, check out more on our Saints YouTube and podcast channels. For those who want to know more about Jesus, find a Christian community to be part of, or you're exploring faith, why not join us this coming Sunday for our 11 a.m. service? We are a growing vibrant church in the heart of Petaling Jaya in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with an interactive kids program for 2 to 12s, facilities for parents with under 2s, and freshly brewed coffee available from 30 minutes before each service. We are confident you'll leave encouraged. Find out more on our website saints.my or follow us on Instagram and Facebook now. We can't wait to host you.